Who you hang out with is important. It can make you or break you. I'm going to show you from the book of Genesis how this happens. You know, God told Abram to leave his family and to go to where God told him to go. But Abram was not totally obedient to God because he took his nephew Lot. God told him to leave your family behind, but he took Lot. And as a result of that, in Genesis 13, chapter 5, or verse 5, it says, Lot, who was traveling with Abram, had also become very wealthy with flocks of sheep and goat, herds of cattle, and many tents. So Lot became wealthy because he was hanging out with Abram, who was wealthy. In fact, between the two of them, they had so many cattle and sheep and goats and everything that they couldn't both fit in the same area. So Abram says, I tell you what, Lot, let's split up because our herdsmen are fighting with each other. You choose where to go. Now, you know, Abram, as the elder, he could have decided where he was gonna go and told Lot to go the other place, but he didn't do that. He said, Lot, you choose where you want to go. So what does Lot do? Lot was kind of selfish, kind of greedy. I mean, you'd think he's already wealthy, okay? But what does he do? Lot chose for himself the whole Jordan Valley to the east of them. And he went there with all his servants and all his stuff, and he parts with Abram. So Abram settles in Canaan. Now listen to what happened with Lot. Lot moved his tents to a place near Sodom. Near Sodom. And he settled in the plain. But the people of this area were extremely wicked. So he chose the best for himself. But you notice here when we're talking about Lot, it's his servants. There's no mention of wife, no mention of children at this point in Lot's life. So what happens? The next mention of Lot is in chapter 14. In chapter 14 of Genesis, there's a bunch of kings that are fighting against each other. And this one set of kings are victorious. And in verse 11, it says, the victorious invaders plundered Sodom and Gomorrah and headed for home, taking with them all the spoils of war and the food supplies. They also captured Lot, Abram's nephew, who lived in Sodom. So between chapter 13 and chapter 14, Lot has moved from living outside the city in the plains. Now he's living in Sodom. And we know Sodom was a wicked place. So these kings captured Lot. They carried off everything that Lot owned. And somebody gets to Abram, tells him what happens. And Abram, being a good uncle, he's like, nah, we can't let this happen. So he goes after these kings. He defeats them. He recovers all the goods that have been taken. And he brought back his nephew Lot with all his possessions. Brings him back where? To Sodom. Because that's where Lot goes. I mean, how much sense does Sodom have? Not a whole lot. He's been living in this he was living outside the wicked place. Then he moves into the wicked place. And as a result of that, he's captured. Now, he probably, he could have lost a little bit of stuff right there. The next chapters talk about Abram and Melchizedek and all that. So let's continue on because we're just following Lot here. Let's go to Genesis chapter 19. In Genesis 19, some angels had visited, in 18, they had visited Abram and told them that in a year they're going to have a baby boy. And then they continue on and they go to Sodom. And Lot sees them when they come into the city. And Lot says, come into my house, stay with me tonight, and then you can go on your way in the morning. And the angels weren't going to do it, but Lot convinced them, and they went into into Lot's home. I'm just going to read you my notes here. So Lot welcomes these angels into Sodom, and he has them spend the night in his house. So what do the men of the cities do? They know that these angels, these men, are here, and they come and surround Lot's house, and they're beating on the door and say, send these men out to us because we want to have intercourse with them. We want to have relations with them. And Lot still has enough sense to say, this is not right. No. But what does he do? He says, I got 2 virgin daughters. I'll send them out to you. Seriously, Lot? You're going to protect these men, but you're going to send out your daughters? They'd die. Well, the angels pull Lot back into the house. They blind the men so they can't come in. So, let's pick it up in verse 12. The angels question Lot, do you have any other relatives here in the city? And they say, get them out of this place, your sons-in-law, your sons, your daughters, and anyone else, because we're about to destroy the city. And the outcry of this place is so great that it has reached the Lord, and he has sent us to destroy it. So Lot, he runs out, and he tells his daughter's fiance, you need to flee. And the fiancés think he's joking. Now, if Lot's pulling fiancés for his daughter from the city of Sodom, you know, they can't be, fine, upstanding, godly people. And they think it's a joke, so they don't leave. So at dawn the next morning, starting in verse 15 here, the angels become insistent. Hurry, they say to Lot, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here and get out, or you're going to be swept away in this mess. And Lot is still hesitating. He doesn't want to leave Sodom, even though he's being told the whole place is going to be destroyed. But because the angels had made a promise to Abram, they grabbed the hands of of Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters, drag them outside the city, and he tells them to run. You need to flee. And still, Lot doesn't want to go. And he's like, I can't make it to the mountains. How about if I go to that little village over there? There's just a little village. There's not very many people there. And the angels are like, okay, fine. Go to the village. We can't do anything until you're there and safe. So they run to this village, and the angels had told them, don't look back. Don't look back. So what happens? They get to this village, and Lot's wife looks back and turns into a pillar of salt. You've been told don't do it. This is the consequence. So now Lot is there with his 2 daughters. Just him and his daughters. He's lost everything. He had to flee from where he lived in the city. At this point, we don't even know if he's got flocks and herds. But he's fled from his city, just him and his wife and his 2 daughters, and now he doesn't even have his wife. He's just got his 2 daughters. And they're in this city. Well, the people in this city are wicked. They are wicked, just like the people of Sodom were. And so now he's like, what are we going to do now? We can't stay in the city. These people are wicked. They're going to kill us too. So Lot takes his daughters and they go and live in a cave. Here is and this man has fallen over the course of years from being a very wealthy rancher with his uncle to living in a cave with nothing but his 2 daughters. Now what are we going to do? I want you to think about this. The daughters are like, what are we going to do? There's no man around for us to get married to. How are we going to have kids? There's no man around. So they come up with a plan. The plans of people. You just have to wonder. And they're like, the older daughter comes up with the plan. You know, those older sisters, you know, they can come up with some good ones. They're like, let's get our dad drunk. And we'll go in and sleep with our dad and we'll have a kid with him. I don't know about you, but I could not imagine doing that with my dad. I mean, I love my dad, but not like that. So the older daughter goes in after dad's drunk, has relations with him. He is so drunk that he doesn't even know what happened. And so she's talking to her sister the next day, and she says, well, we got dad drunk last night, and I went in and laid with him, and let's do you tonight. So, okay. So they get Lot drunk again that night, and the younger daughter goes in and has relations with him. And as a result of this, both of Lot's daughters became pregnant. Now, Imagine Lot when he finds out that his daughters are pregnant. I wondered how they told him what they did and how they became pregnant. Tufi wants to say hello. There's Tufi, says hello. Okay, so Lot's daughters, they each have a son, and they name their sons. The oldest daughter gave birth to a son and named him Moab, and he became the father of the Moabites. And the youngest daughter had a son, named him Ben-Ami, which means son of my kinsman. And that is the story of Lot and how he fell from being a very rich man with his uncle to living in a cave with his daughters. It matters who you hang out with. Because when Lot left Abram, first he settles in the plain, then he moves into the city. And I kind of think he wasn't serving God and wasn't thinking about God very much at that point. Imagine what would have happened if Lot would have stayed in relationship with Abram. And he could have continued to share the wealth and the comfort. But he didn't. Who are you hanging out with? Are you hanging out with people who are going to draw you close to God? Who are going to encourage you? Who are going to be a blessing to you and that you can be a blessing to? Or have you left the godly to hang out with the wicked? It's your choice who you hang out with. I highly recommend you find some godly people to hang out with. Because as you hang out with godly people, you become more godly and you become more wealthy. You saying I'm going to get rich if I hang out with godly people? You know, wealth is more than money. Wealth is relationships. Lot didn't even have a relationship anymore. His daughters didn't have their fiancés anymore. Wealth is kitty cats and puppy dogs. Wealth is friends and family. It's not just stuff. Wealth is a relationship with Jesus. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.